The Ukrainian authorities this past week announced the capture of 2 North Korean soldiers in Russia. The Ukrainian government claims that they were the first to be taken alive since Pyongyang sent troops to assist Moscow in its war effort in Ukraine. President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine said that the 2 soldiers who were wounded were captured in the Kursk region of western Russia. There, the Ukrainian troops have been fighting to hold on to territory that was seized during a surprise cross-border incursion last summer. In a post on his social media channel, Zelensky said that the 2 soldiers had received medical care as per the Geneva Convention and they had been taken to hospital in Ukraine's capital Kiev for further treatment and interrogation. On Crux Decode, what does the capture of these 2 North Korean soldiers actually mean? Will other foreign powers now lend their fighters to fight Moscow's war? And what are the technological and military implications on future wars if this trend of outsourcing were to catch on? Ukraine's Domestic Intelligence Service, the SBU, has said that one of the soldiers was captured on Thursday. It did not provide any further details on where he was captured, or for that matter, it did not reveal when and where the second prisoner was found. But it did add that these 2 were the first North Koreans fighting against Ukraine in Kursk to be captured alive. The Kremlin has not directly confirmed that these North Korean troops are fighting alongside Moscow's forces, or for that matter said anything about the capture of these 2 soldiers. Interrogations are currently being carried out through Korean translators in coordination with South Korea's intelligence service. South Korea's embassy in Ukraine has not officially commented on the capture of these 2 North Korean soldiers. Neither Russia nor North Korea, too, has offered any immediate comment. Zelensky shared photographs and videos of these 2 soldiers, showing one of the soldiers having a bandage around his jaw and the other had bandages on his hands. Now, according to the rules governing the treatment of prisoners of war under the Geneva Convention, governments are supposed to protect a prisoner of war from being made into a public spectacle. Ukraine wants to draw the distinction that while it has managed to capture Russian soldiers in the past since this war began, this time is different because it's the first time that a foreign power's soldiers have been caught. Zelensky is also hoping to use the capture of these soldiers as some kind of leverage, not so much with Pyongyang or North Korea, but with China, so that China can put further pressure on Russia. Fierce fighting has raged on in Kursk as Russian forces try to push back Ukrainian troops and push them back further across the border, as was the case before the August raid. Bolstered by more than 11,000 North Korean soldiers, Russian troops have regained nearly half of Kursk, which they lost in the summer raid. But Ukraine has hung on to about 150 square miles of land inside of Russia. The White House has said that North Korea's forces are suffering heavy casualties in the war in Ukraine. Last month, the Biden administration said that more than 1,000 North Korean soldiers have been killed or wounded fighting in Ukraine just in Kursk alone, and all of that was happening over the course of just 1 week. In fact, the White House also added for some measure that many of these North Korean soldiers were choosing suicide over surrender. This claim has since been unverified. The capture of the 2 soldiers could provide Ukraine with valuable intelligence on Russia's military operations inside Kursk and also how the Russian soldiers are interplaying with their North Korean counterparts. Russia's decision to utilize North Korean troops can be analyzed through several lenses. It ensures a strategic military need is taken care of. There is an economic motivation on the part of both Russia and North Korea. And of course, there is a historical precedent in Russia of outsourcing warfare. Russia is currently facing a massive manpower shortage because of sustained military operations in Ukraine over the last almost 3 years. The Kremlin's reliance on North Korean soldiers allows it to bolster its forces without diverting additional high-quality Russian troops away from the front lines. Reports indicate approximately 11,000 North Korean troops have been deployed, particularly in Kursk, where they are engaged in combat alongside Russian forces. This deployment not just provides Russia with additional infantry, hands on the deck as they say, but also helps mitigate the impact of any casualties felt in its own ranks. That's not all. North Korean soldiers are expected to gain valuable combat experience in modern warfare, which could enhance their utility in future conflicts. North Korea could become a sort of outsourcing hub for future military conflicts, especially if those countries have lesser manpower to contend with. For Russia, what this means is leveraging a foreign military presence to maintain offensive operations, maintain the offense along the front lines as it were, while at the same time conserving its own domestic resources. From North Korea's perspective, involvement in the Ukraine war has several benefits. The country is under severe international sanctions that have crippled the North Korean economy. There is widespread food shortages. By sending troops to support Russia, North Korea not only receives financial compensation, it's estimated around $1,500 per soldier per month, but it also strengthens its military ties with Moscow, and it can potentially become, like I said, an outsourcing hub for wars in foreign lands. There is also a definitive Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran alliance that seems to be shaping up in response to NATO and Western democracies. The practice of outsourcing military operations is not new in Russia. Historically, Moscow has employed different methods to augment its military capabilities through foreign fighters and foreign mercenaries. For instance, in the past conflicts in Syria and in Libya, Russia has utilized private military contractors like the Wagner Group. These groups often operate with a degree of deniability which allows the Kremlin to avoid direct accountability. The deployment of North Korean soldiers marks a notable shift because this is the first time that state-sponsored troops from a third country are entering this conflict. This could set a precedent for future alliances, where countries that are facing similar sanctions or isolation internationally could potentially collaborate militarily with an anti-West alliance. This new axis of military cooperation from Beijing to Moscow to Pyongyang, and an active role by Tehran as well. Russia's use of North Korean soldiers serves multiple strategic purposes. It addresses, on the face of it, a severe manpower shortage. It has financial and technological benefits both for Russia and for North Korea, and it continues a historic trend of outsourcing warfare. The implications of this collaboration between Pyongyang, Beijing, and Moscow extend well beyond the battlefield. They could influence regional stability both in Eastern Europe, depending on what the outcome of the Ukraine war is, and in specific, what the outcome is in Kursk, and it could also redefine the dynamics in the Asia Pacific.